Hello everyone! This episode is going to be a little bit different, so it's going to be not very produced or edited or whatever, because I'm going to be reading some creepy Maryland Reddit stories, okay? So, trying out something new. On my TikTok, I was posting some trailers for, Crownsville and other spooky Maryland places, and a lot of people were telling me their creepy Maryland experiences. So maybe I'll do an episode reading through those, but this one is just going to be a little more chill. I think it's funny because a lot of the people were talking about scary driving experiences. Like, that's the number one scariest thing that happens in Maryland, which is very true. But the ones I picked out are more creepy paranormal, which I've always had interest in, so I'm going to share them. This first one is from the paranormal subreddit, and it's called "A Ghost Led Me to Her Body on the Beach Last Year." I posted this in the comments on an Ask Reddit post, but I wanted to share it some more. The last week of July last year, I went to Ocean City, Maryland with my boyfriend at the time. The first few nights were great. I got to see a longtime friend who lives there, and he was tagging along with us the night it happened. My boyfriend and my friend decided they wanted to go get crab fries. I wasn't interested because I just don't like Old Bay on my fries. Sorry, sue me. Yeah. So I decided to sit on a bench and wait for them. I saw a family go by, and I saw their daughter walking behind them. She looked really mad and was texting quickly as if she was in a really heated argument. She had short bleached white hair and really sick tattoos. That's what made her stick out to me, her tattoos. They were awesome. So anyway, my boyfriend and my friend came back over and we walked behind that family for a while. We ended up getting distracted by the boardwalk performers and I lost sight of them. I didn't think anything of it though. Around 2 a.m., we were some of the only people on the boardwalk besides the small group of drunk teenagers smoking cigarettes and yelling. And I saw her again, running towards the beach crying. I wanted to go after her and ask if she was okay, but my boyfriend advised me to just stay out of it and keep going. We went to our hotel and fell asleep. At about 6 a.m., I got up and rolled a joint and quietly left the room. The hotel we were staying at had a nice sitting area out front looking over the ocean. I admired the view for a few minutes, and then I noticed her again. She was walking down the boardwalk looking confused and scared. She was crying, still. I got this weird gut feeling to follow her. I tucked my joint into my clutch and followed a little behind her. She looked nervous and was looking left and right as if she was lost. I followed her all the way to the 2nd Street beach ramp. She suddenly burst into a full sprint, crying hysterically. I don't know why, but I shouted, "Hey, wait, do you need help?" I ran to the beach and stood in shock. Nobody was there, but I could hear a soft sobbing nearby to the right of me. I walked down the beach a little ways before I saw it. Where the sobbing sounds had led me, there was an arm sticking out of the sand. It was her arm. It was her tattoos. I'll never forget them. The sobbing stopped, and suddenly the ambient noises of the beach became louder again. I didn't notice it at the time, but the whole time I was following her, and then following the crying, everything else was completely silent. When I realized what I was looking at, I screamed for someone to call 911. A middle-aged couple came jogging up. The wife screamed, and the husband dialed them right away. I didn't have my phone with me, because I don't like when sand ends up in my charging port. The police arrived a little while later. When they took my statement, I didn't know what to tell them. I said I had been walking down the beach and just found her. It took them hours to dig her out. When they finally started to pull her out, they asked that all civilians and witnesses be led away. As we were walking with the police to a nearby spot to answer more questions, I saw her standing behind them, looking down at her own body. She looked up at me, nodded, and then she was gone. Initially, the reports all said that she sat in a hole and it collapsed around her. But then it was later discovered that the big sand cleaners may have pushed the sand into the hole by mistake. But here's what gets scary. She had been missing since 2 a.m. She died somewhere between 2 to 3 a.m. And yet I saw her and followed her. The entire time, I swore she looked real. I still have dreams about her. I've never forgotten a single detail. Okay, and then they include police reports. Woman's body found buried in the sand, Ocean City, Maryland. Okay, this one is a little freaky. This one comes from Lime Green Zombie Dog. When my uncle was in the ICU at St. Agnes following a stroke, I went to visit, and as I was making my way to his room that was totally glass so that the patient could be observed from the nurse's station, I kept my eyes on the room the whole time, and I made my way from the entrance and around the nurse's station, and I could see someone in there with him. When I got to the room, he was alone. He did a twirling motion with his hand. At this point, he couldn't speak, but he could still write. He had been telling us recently his deceased daughter had been coming to his room and dancing. See, that one's a little creepy to me because I know that people's subconscious will do what they can to keep someone calm when they're like dying, and that means they'll like hallucinate things and whatever. But it makes me a little like freaked out when it's dead people that they see, like, you know, people have died, especially that she thought she saw someone in there and then there was no one there. I feel like if paranormal stuff did exist, this phenomenon is definitely something to think about. Anyway. Okay, another Redditor posted, I grew up in Montgomery Village, near North Creek Lake. My friends and I used to cut through the woods that would take us close to Belle Bluff. We found an abandoned house, and there were some really disturbing things there. It was a really old white house. We used to go in and explore. Several of the bedrooms had deadbolts on the outside and mail slots on them, which looked like food could be passed through it. The dinner table was set, and food was still on the table. Well, what was once food? Completely decomposed when we came across it. There was a trap door in one of the rooms covered with like 5 rugs that took you to the basement. Dirt floor. I was too scared to go down there, but my brothers did. The attic had thousands of National Geographic magazines and glass jars filled with broken glass. I got such a weird feeling that bad things happened there. Body tingling right now as I type this. There was a car from the early 1900s in the garage. The tool shed was filled with rusty equipment. It looked like someone had to up and get out quick. My friends have no idea what happened there, but we made up our own versions of events. Bad things might have happened. People held captive. Owner had to flee, hence so much stuff still left at the house. So random. But one of the times we visited there was a painting outside leaning against the front door. It was a painting of a man in a turban. So random. It had never been there during previous trips. Now that we were adults, my brother and I have tried our hardest to find anything we could about the house. No luck. I understand that they knocked it down and the new house was built there. I'll never forget that creepy house. Alright, Lingonberry Visual says, 2 years ago, I discovered Daniels, Maryland. There is a dam there that people swim in, even though a good handful of deaths have occurred. It's an old town, which was evacuated in the early 70s. There's a bunch of ruins and an old church. I became slightly obsessed with bringing my friends out there to show them how cool it was, especially on a drunken evening. Anyway, this is one night I went there with my ex-boyfriend around 2:30 a.m. It was a beautiful starry night. We sat by the graveyards as we caught up chatting, etc. I got emotional because I started talking about my son, who I put up for adoption when I was 18. After wiping my tears away, I was like, okay, sorry, let's go down to the dam and swim. I was excited to get in the water and float around and look at the stars. I had a head start and was already out in the water, sort of showing off, and he was still making his way to me. For some reason, I suddenly got this weird feeling in my stomach, and I sat up in the water and looked around. I saw what looked like a floating white t-shirt in the distance where the dam sucks the water in. Not sure what it's called, but you get my point. There's no way anyone could get to that spot. I turned around and yelled to my ex, saying, "Sam, what is that over there?" while pointing. And he was dead silent, and then said, "I don't know, let's go." So we started scrambling back to our belongings and ran up to the car. I had my shoes in my hand and looked around, and once I had light to see, I saw that something was in my shoe. It was an old diaper. I mean, a diaper that was like from the 50s or something. It smelled like an antique shop. Both him and I know that there was no one else there besides us. And if someone did show up and randomly decided to shove a diaper in my shoe, we would have seen them. None of it made sense. I think a sad soul was probably listening to me cry about my son before they put it there. That's the day I started to believe in ghosts or spirits. I will never forget that night until the day I die. One more. From Ambitious Dealer. I'm going to preface the story by saying I don't believe in the supernatural or the paranormal, but I still can't explain what happened. So, a friend of mine and I used to walk the trails around our houses late at night during the summertime since we were out of school. We were about 15 and 16 at the time. The woods by the house led to a state park and local trash dump. There was just acres of unpopulated woods in the dump. So one night, around the 4th of July, we walked through the woods to the dump to go shoot off some bottle rockets at about midnight. We spent a good hour or so just shooting off bottle rockets and jumping on old tires and stuff of that nature. On our walk back, there was an unexplained event happened. It was a trail that people would dirt bike and four-wheel on, so it was worn and flanked by power lines and thick woods on one side, and the other was a thorny bush ravine and a tree line about 10 feet above it. As we were walking to head back to the houses at around 1 or 2 a.m., I noticed something on the tree line, so I stop and tell my friends to look. At this point, a dark figure that looks like it's squatting down on all fours rises on 2 legs. The thing looks massive, about 7 to 8 feet tall and very lean. As soon as my friend looks over, it comes straight for us, running straight through the thorny bushes like it was nothing. I can still remember the sound of the branches snapping. I took off and don't think I've ever run as fast in my life before or after. This was years ago, but we still talk and wonder what the hell that was. So long story short, maybe there is something weird running around the woods in these parts.
Alright everyone, thank you for listening. And if you like this style, then that's great. If not, I'm very sorry. I have some more exciting things coming up. Some more investigations, etc. Anyway, okay, bye.